Hey everybody, welcome to Inside the Movement. Today I have with me Pastor Doris Turner. Pastor Doris, thanks so much for jumping in with us.
Oh, I'm grateful to be here sitting talking with you.
Now, I know you do a lot of different things at the church, but even back up just a moment, how did you even get to be at Movement City Church?
Well, it was really just one of those God moments. My husband and I were working in Akron, Ohio at a Christian counseling center, and Pastor Doris just happened to call and said, ask us if we would like to come and be here on staff. And we're like, well, no, we're really happy here. But then Pastor Cindy called, and that's when the wheels started rolling. We started praying, and so yes, we said, yeah, we'll come to Texas. Never lived here. We're Midwest and Northeast, but it truly has been just God guiding and directing us to be here, and we've loved every minute of it.
And you were even just sharing with me that you know Miss Cindy from way, way back.
Yes. So when we left CBC, that was our college days, we went to St. Louis, and my husband went to graduate school there, and in St. Louis was where it was, and that's where Pastor Cindy's dad was pastoring, and so that's when we got to meet her.
And Doris, I love because her roots, for those who don't know, Movement City Church, we're an Assemblies of God church. We're part of that fellowship. And so Pastor Doris's roots go deep in there.
Yes.
And she actually roomed in college with Lindsay's aunt. Yes. And as we were looking at the church for the first time, we're going through the website, looking at the staff page and all this stuff, and we were looking through all the different staff with Lindsay's mom, and she's like, Doris Turner's there. This is a very good church. You definitely want to be there if Doris is at this church.
Yes.
So it's just neat how God brought our families paths and brings us back together again.
Yes.
Now, Pastor Doris, you lead our Young at Heart area.
Yes.
And what is that? Explain to people that they've heard Young at Heart and they're like, what does that mean?
Well, and we often refer to it as YAH, Y-A-H,
yes,
standing for Young at Heart. But Young at Heart is for anybody 55 and plus. And we get together. We have monthly luncheons. We do short trips around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And one of the biggest goals that we have Young at Heart is for people to get together, create new relationships, friendships, because it's often at this time in people's lives that they feel like they don't have friends. And so we want to encourage that and let them know that we love them and they're special, and just help them increase in their knowledge of and awareness of things that they need that will help them in their day-to-day living. And so
let's talk about that for just a moment, because this is a unique time in people's lives. Normally you're in school, you're, trying to learn and increase in knowledge. And then as you get a job, you're trying to work up the ladder and stuff. And a lot of these people are retired, and now it's like everything shifts. And it'd be very easy for people to think that, what am I doing now?
Well, some are still working, but then there are many that have retired, and it's a new course.
It is.
But we want to educate our senior adults. We bring in guest speakers to help people to know, here's a scam that's going on. Don't go and don't answer these types of emails or calls. But just to help them to know, hey, do you have all your end of life details taken care of? Because that's such an important part of this time in your lives, to have everything in order. And sometimes we forget that, and we think, well, we're going to be here forever. But
and those small details of being able to identify scams, or having the end of your life preparations made for, do you have a will written, those kinds of things. They're small details, but they're really big. And I love that you're willing to have not just those conversations, but that you've created a place where it's healthy to have these moments. I know one of my favorite events that you've done the past couple of years is the get-togethers that you've done with the youth, like bridging the generations.
Yes.
And literally it's youth students and some of our Young at Heart crowd all together, and they'll play games together, laugh together, pray together. Mm-hmm. and it's a special time.
It just helps our youth to know that we have older people who care for them, love them, that they don't need to be afraid of them, and that they're both generations are very important, but bringing them together. And we've just had some great times, especially in playing the games, and the competition never goes away, no matter how young or how old you are. But that's just fun, bringing them together and then encouraging both youth and senior adults to pray one for another, because both have needs that just you need to hold each other up in prayer and support that way.
Absolutely. Well, I love this group because this is a fun group. Like, this isn't just a bunch of people talking about the good old days. Like,
Right.
These are the good days.
Yes.
And as I go, because I'm there for most of the lunches, I'll go and hang and sit down and grab a plate and talk with people and laugh and hug. And again, I love all the generations, but this is like one of my favorite groups. And even as we were first arriving at the church, this is a group that just reached out and loved on our family. And I can remember, I remember Miss Jerry taking us out to a small little Italian restaurant and just blessing our family.
Yes.
And I know she's passed on, but like, she held a special spot in my heart because she just loved my family as we were going into this new transition, this new season.
And they are very caring. They're very gracious. They have lots of wisdom. It's moments where, you might get a card in the mail praying for you this week, and, they don't even know what's going on in your week or whatever it is. You might be struggling or something, and there's a card that shows up, because that generation still loves to send out cards.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they do texting and emails, but they still send out those cards. So it's just so when we can pour into them and let them know how important they are, through their phone calls one with the other, to call and to pray and to support them in that way, it's we want to be there to encourage them to do that.
Well, when I look at churches, I believe a healthy church is a multi-generational church.
Yes.
And when we were even back several years ago, as Lindsay and I were just praying and trying to find the next spot for us, which ultimately became Movement City Church, we were looking at, there were kind of two churches that we were looking at, and one in Florida and one here, and we visited this church in Florida, and I remember they made a comment. They said, we used to have a lot of old people, but we got rid of them all. Mm. And that was a moment for Lindsay and I that we said, this isn't the church for us, because I want a church, because it's not old people. Those are grandparents. Right. Those are parents. Mm-hmm. Those are people that someday I'm going to be that person. Mm-hmm. And I want a church that literally loves everybody. And that's, as we have our values at the church, a church where everybody belongs.
Yes.
I want that church where everybody belongs, because ultimately in the kingdom of God, God's throwing his arms wide and he's like, come to me, everybody.
Yes. And we also have another opportunity for all of our senior adults. Really, I tell anybody that they can come. We even have younger people that come into what's called the gathering on Sunday morning. And this is a time, so we have two Sunday morning services on 9:30 and 11:30, but in between we have what's called the gathering. It's about a 30-minute time where we sing the old songs and choruses, and it just helps them it kind of takes them back, but it helps them just to feel like, yes, we are singing your music. It's not that they don't like the other music,
sure,
but or the newer music, but it just, they love the old hymns. We have a devotional, and then we spend some time in prayer. We've just seen God answer prayers through just that smaller setting, and just having a great time of fellowship together.
There is something, again, I love our worship. I love the songs that we sing. But when I'm listening to the radio, or often as I'm in the car, like I'll kick on Spotify like an 80s playlist from Christian stuff, and Lindsay will be like, what are you listening to? And it's like old school stuff, but it reminds me of those moments when I was a little kid, running around the house listening to mom's record player and these old school Maranatha type of worship
Yes.
songs that she would be listening to.
Yes.
And it's not that I don't appreciate the new stuff. I love the new stuff. But it takes me back mentally to a different time, to a different season. And that was a happy season. Not that this isn't a happy season, but it's almost just a recollection of like, man, I loved what God did then. And I remember the ways that God moved in my life when I sang this song. And so to get to sing some of those old songs again in different seasons, it's special.
It is very special. And there are many times when I might be going through something and one of the old choruses or songs will start playing, and it just really ministers. And I think in turn, as we plan the gathering, I have a couple people that will plan the songs. I don't do that part. I let somebody else
Although you've got
do
a
it.
killer voice, by the way. You've got a great, the most underrated singer in our entire church right here.
Well, not really, but thank you. You're very kind. But it's kind of neat to see how the songs correlate with whatever our devotional is. And that's just the way God works. And we had, like I said, made some changes with what we have been able to offer for our senior adults, but the gathering has just been kind of like what I call the frosting on the cake. So I tell them, come to either the 9:30 or 11:30 and then join us for the gathering.
The gathering in between. So for both Young at Heart and for the gathering, what do people need to do? Do they need to sign up? They can just come? What do they need to do?
They can just come for a lot of our events. We do have a sign up, like we have an event coming up this Thursday. It's called Movie Day. And we're going to have lunch, of course, because food is very important when we get together. So you have to have some good food.
Come on.
We have a great caterer, Juan, who brings us, the best food ever. But usually for an event, we do need you to sign up. But for the gathering, come, join us. Bring a friend. And like I said, we had some guests with us on Sunday, and I could tell from the moment that they walked in that they were kind of surprised that we were singing the older songs, but they joined right in and loved every minute of it. So
let's go.
Yeah.
Well, Pastor Doris, thank you so much for all that you do. And I know the gathering and Young at Heart and all that you're doing in that area is only a fraction of what all you do for the church. But thank you for leading those specific areas today and for just being a blessing to the kingdom of God.
Well, thank you. And it's an honor. And, probably one of my favorite verses throughout this whole season here is to know that I can do all things through Christ because He gives me strength.
Amen.
Not on my own, but it's through His strength. And I'm just honored to be able to minister to people and love on them every week.
Come on. Well, thank you, Pastor Doris, for joining us here today.
Thank you.